Massage techniques inspired from travels around the globe. Today I want to show to you some of my favorite techniques that I've learned while traveling in the US and also abroad. I want to start by doing an abbreviated Thai massage leg sequence for the table. And I'm going to start with what I call as ankle rotations. Even though I'm working on the foot and ankle, it'll have full impact on your client's body. So what I'm going to have you do is at first really start grounded in your own body. And then you're going to take your hand, the hand that's closest to their center line, and pick up their foot, grasping at their heel. And then you're going to take the heel of your outside hand and place it on the ball of their foot. You're going to bring your own arms in to connect with your body. And then you're going to use your body's movement to create some nice, slow, big rotations of the ankle. And you may notice that I have her ankle lined up with her knee, lined up with her hip, lined up with her ear. And if I do that, that allows the entire movement to go up in her entire spine and even affect into her neck. One of the common mistakes in this move is that people sometimes do it to the side, and although it's not unpleasant, it does not isolate the movement as thoroughly in the body. And once you've done some circles in both directions, you're going to take your hand and wrap it around the foot, kind of like you would be squeezing out a washcloth. And you're going to traction with the supporting hand while you're wringing out the foot by leaning and using your body. Most of this movement, you can see, comes from the rock of my own body. And then switch hands and then wrap and ring the other direction. When I transition, I often will shake a little bit. Feels good, and it also gives me an opportunity to assess a little bit the movement in the leg. Let me show you how to do it on the other foot. So inside hand supports, outside hand, you take the heel of the hand and follow the foot. Circle. Both directions. Bring out the foot while tractioning and leaning. And then switch hands. For the next sequence, I'm going to show you what I call the Thai elephant walk, because the pace that it's done in is similar to a Thai elephant walking through the jungle. So you're going to make a little space between your client's legs so that you can transition up onto the table. And please make sure that in your intake form with your client, when you're talking with them, that you've already cleared that it's okay for you to get up and down off the table. And if you haven't, this would be the moment before you actually decide to get up. You say to your client, I'm considering getting up on the table, are you okay with that? And then they can tell you that yes or no. So thumbs up, yes? Yes. Okay, good. So, I like to begin, and I want to give you as often as possible options for using parts of your hand other than your thumbs. So I'd like to begin by taking the side of my hand and kind of rolling it almost the way that you'd roll a big professional pizza cutter, right along the edge of the calf where it joins the bone. So I'll roll one hand and then the other. When I reach the knees, I connect with the knees almost like Spider-Man hands, like suction cups. And then I rotate the patella outward. And this is a perfect opportunity to use this movement to camouflage your body movement up on the table. Then I'm going to continue that elephant walk forward by using, it's very important with this, use broad palms, the pressure going broad through your palms. All too often people put too much pressure in the heels and that does not feel good. So broad palms, and take attention to how my body distributes the weight. I'm rocking my body from side to side, kind of the way that an elephant would stroll through the jungle. Coming up to the hip crease. And then navigating back down. I'm going to show you this another time while staying up on the table. So I'm going to come half kneeling. On the way down, do some knee circles, and just due to the angle of my own body at this point, I'll use broad, long thumb pressure along the inside of the calf. And you can see that still I'm keeping that nice rhythmic rocking. And then I'll, again, do a sequence of walking back up. Palm circling at the knees. Watch my body weight coming up, and then broad pressure along the thighs, allowing this to both be a treatment and an opportunity for assessing tightness and restriction in your receiver's body. So as I finish the elephant walk sequence, I'm going to show you the beginning of the single leg Thai massage leg sequence. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand that's closest to their midline, and you're going to support underneath their knee as you bend their knee towards their chest, and you bring your foot up around their hip region. You're going to take their foot and place it at the crease of your groin and allow your thigh to support their upper leg. It's almost like you're making a machine or the pieces of a locomotion. See how it's supported well? And then you're going to take your hand that's closest to the outside and support their knee. And with your hand that's free, the one that's closest to the midline, you're going to be palming up and down the straight leg thigh, working with their breath. So take a breath in, and on the exhale I press. And then I move up about an inch. Now you can work your way up and down this straight leg thigh a couple times if you'd like. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to transition from working the straight leg thigh to now beginning to work the bent leg thigh. So breathe in. Now because she's getting more flexible, I'm going to scooch my knee forward so that I have my center of gravity more and not spreading my own kneeling too wide. Now, if that feels like too much torque for your wrist, you can also use flat knuckles. And with doing this too, both pressing here and here, I'm going to invite you to press towards the same shoulder straight. Now the next sequence I call the shot put sequence. So you're going to take your hand that was palming and you're going to use it to scoop and support their heel, almost like an Olympic shot put. Like if this was the ball and you'd hold the shot put. And then your hand that was supporting the knee is going to become the palming hand. And you're going to guide that knee towards the opposite shoulder. So again, working with the breath. press with the knee bent, and then I extend. I disengage the knee, and then I come back. And then I find a new place to press. Pressing, extending, disengaging, extending, and come back. Now, although it's not happening with Marian here, some people, when you do this move, they get a little bit of a catch here, and you can feel them resisting. So I want to show you, this is not something classically taught in Thailand, at least it wasn't in any of the schools that I went to, but I want to show you a little hip flexor opening that I've discovered over the years. So what I do is I let the machine kind of be stable again. I'm going to bring my butt down and my right leg outward to expose the hip flexors. And then I'm going to take my hands, kind of like an old-fashioned saw, and I'm going to come into the hip flexors. I'm going to crisscross it back and forth. If you want to come in and take a closer look, you're welcome to. Even squeeze a little bit up the thigh, that'll help open it up more. And if somebody was a little restrictive, then you can go in with a lot more ease. So I want to transition from this shot put move to show you a spinal twist that you can do up on the table. But please be mindful that spinal twists are often contraindicated for people who have bulging discs or herniations, so make sure you are well aware of whatever is going on, especially lower spine stuff with your clients. So you're going to take the foot, cross it where their knee is, and then you're going to have their arms out like a T, and just very gently, barely touching, you're just going to stabilize that by placing your foot here, almost the way you would barely touch a pedal at a car. And then with the breath, breathe in, you can rock. And even while you're here, if you want to stabilize here and just do some IT band work. And up into the hips, using your leg to support your arm. That's a really nice way to throw in a little extra therapy. So to get out of this position, all you're going to need to do is support underneath their knee, rotate them out, and then bring them back down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment and stop the camera, and then I'm going to show you on this leg how to do the same thing, but if you were using draping. Okay? Okay, now I'd like to show you the draping options for the Thai massage leg sequence. So I always make sure that I undrape the lower part of both legs. And also something, whenever you move the client's legs around, I think it's a lot more respectful of the client's body and vulnerability if you actually move only one leg at a time when you make room. Because if you pick up both legs and move it, it's kind of vulnerable, and it's just much more pleasant if you move one leg at a time. So that's something to consider in whatever move you're doing. Marian, will you put your hands on your chest so that they're not in my step way? Great. So, come on up to see it, because chances are you will have already been in this position, all right, and done the elephant walk. So what I'm going to have you do is take the corner, come underneath, and I do a real broad draping so that the fabric covers the entire thigh, okay? And then that way, not only is there visual draping, but they can feel the fabric between your hands in their skin, and it really makes them feel like you're maintaining their modesty. Okay, and I'll just show you how to get in and out of what I just told you with the draping. So take a breath in. So, pressing the straight leg thigh. I'm going to scooch my body a little closer. And then pressing the back of the bent leg thigh. Transitioning to the shot put, so the knee going to the opposite shoulder. And Marian, put your arms out like a T. Good. Supporting, bringing their foot down here, and crossing. Now, since I'm in this position, I'm actually going to show you, with the drape, how to transition into what I call one of the Esalen advanced stretches that incorporates a spinal twist. So I'll keep her in this position. I'll come down, and I'll open up her leg and bring the side of my body right into her resistance so her leg can rest on me. And then I'm going to anchor the straight leg. I'm just going to gently support here and press and stretch her. If you've got someone who's really tight, you may need to use both hands to anchor. And then I like to incorporate some of the some muscle energy techniques into the advanced Esalen stretch. So one of the ways I do that is I'll bring her to the edge of her limit, and then I'll have her gently press your leg into me, and then release, and then I'll bring her a little farther after a little bit of like maybe a half a second pause. That gets more this section as far as opening and lengthening. Press again and release. If you want to isolate more specifically the hamstring, one of the things I ask people to do is you can use different verbal cues yourself, but I often will tell people to pretend like this is a nutcracker, like an old-fashioned nutcracker, and my body's a nut, so bend your knee, crack the nut, and let go. That really helps to open up, isolate more of the hamstring itself. Okay. This is a really wonderful stretch. Let me show you how to get out of it gracefully while still maintaining their modesty and good draping. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand that's closest to their head, and you're going to almost like you're diving underneath their leg. You're going to dive underneath. This is what's happening with your hand. You're going to dive underneath, but then you're going to rotate your hand so that your fingers come and hold their drape on the back of their thigh. Let me demonstrate. Like this. I step out a little bit, and then I support here. And I come out. And then I'll support their ankle. I'll rotate their leg out in a nice circle, opening up that hip. I grasp the edge. She's a little tucked in, so this may occasionally happen with clients. Lift your bum a little. Thank you. And then slide them down. Okay. And I'm going to also show you how to do this advanced Esalen stretch from on the ground. I will re-show you the drape, and then I also will include a little bit of a close-up so you can see what's happening with the hand with the drape. So let me just give a moment. Okay. So if I'm doing this from the ground, I will start on this side because I've already stretched this leg. I want to stretch this one. And what I'll do is I'll take the corner that's closest to the leg that I'm going to stretch. I'll grab it in my hand that's closest to her head, and I'll lift underneath like this, generously covering her. At this point, I rotate her out and around so that I can step between the legs, like this. Now, so that she really feels covered, I often will like to tuck in underneath behind. That makes it a little bit trickier when you're getting out, but it really makes them feel covered. And then from here, I'll do some of the muscle energy techniques that I showed. So my back comes kind of diagonally towards her. Press your leg into my body and release. Good. And press again and release. Now pretend like this is a nutcracker, my body's a nut, and release. There you go. Now also, this is a great position. If I rotate my body, let your leg be heavy, and support her knee, this is also a wonderful position to work the lateral hamstring, the energy lines of the hip, and also get the underside of the IT band. So this is a real nice position to work in, like that. Okay, so let me show you how to get out of here gracefully using the draping. So the hand that's closest to the head comes under and around. So Sibylla, come over here and take a look. Let them see how it looks from a practitioner point of view. Maybe come almost behind me and above, like that. And then maybe you can zoom out so they can see how I get out of this. So back up a little, back up pretty far. So I undo where I tucked in here. Okay, and I come out, right? And then around and down. And that was how to drape with the introduction to the Thai massage leg sequence, and it was also an advanced spinal twist that I learned when I was at the Esalen Institute. So I want to show you also a great thing that helps open the thighs and especially the hip flexors. I may or may not show it in the weekend class, but it's something that also can help warm up before doing a spinal twist. But I just like to show it to you now before we turn her over. So I'm going to support under the knee and bring her off the side. And there's a few ways that you can palm. One of the ways I call butterfly palming, that's used in the Thai tradition, where I'm rocking my body and my fingers are coming kind of like the wings of a butterfly. That's a way of warming. You can also use flat knuckles, depending on the height of your table. You can also, if you're doing more specific, you can either do broad palm, or if you're doing more specific work, you can use the heel of your hand, and you can also use your forearm. And with the forearms, I tend to find that if you use the forearm that's closest to the head, it's great for on top and to the side. And if you're doing more internal work, it's better to use the forearm that's closest to the feet, at least if you're standing at this angle, like this. So you can do all kinds of warming in this position, which I won't necessarily do right now for the video. I want to skip and show you a couple of muscle energy techniques to help with the thigh and also the hip flexors. So you're going to be using your own body to help anchor this leg. And what you can do is you can find a tender spot, and then you can invite the client to extend their leg and then release it. You give a little space, and then you go deeper, and then you bend their knee a little bit deeper. So straighten, release, good. You can spread it out. You can also do it up here. So when you're straightening, that's addressing more the thigh muscles. So straighten and release. But the next sequence is actually going to be getting more into the hip flexors. So I found a tight spot. What I'm going to do is anchor her at her knee, with my hand or with my belly or a combination of both. Then I'm going to have her bring your knee up into my hand and release. It's important also when they do that, some people will want to straighten their leg for that and just say, I want you to, keeping the knee bent, bring it right up into the hand and release. And all this really is wonderful. You could do a lot more detailed work, but this is just to be a little bit of a refresher in case I do show this in the weekend class. It's a great technique, but I just wanted to show you a little bit what you can do to help open up the thigh and hip flexors. Alright, I would like to show you some more spinal twists for different angles with the body, and I also want to show you a really nice side body opener, which is inspired, it's something that I adapted to the table, but it's inspired by something I've seen with Learn Thai Massage. But a simple spinal twist sequence that you can start out with. I like to grasp the client's wrist, and it's almost like the hands fit perfectly, so I don't even have to grip very hard. And then maybe support underneath, and I'll just kind of start maybe at an angle, open up her shoulder and neck a little bit. And then kind of come out more like a T. At this point, I'll switch hands and already begin to support her elbow. And then I bring her up like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take where the fleshy part of my forearm and elbow come together and join it with the same part of her fleshy arm and elbow. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by lifting up towards the sky and then arcing back and dropping my body weight. And let me show you that. And one of the things that's really important is that this hand is gently pressing down there to create a fulcrum. So lifting up and then back. When I do this on the other side, I'm going to make sure that Sibylla lets you see what's happening with how I'm using my body. But continuing this spinal twist, I like to make sure, especially if you're working with women who have bigger breast tissue, you don't want to just go like this and smush the breast tissue. You want to come up and around and underneath. And then this is a great opportunity for you. Just make sure she's going to be covered and not just flash the camera. To do a bit of a lengthening of your own hamstring. Like this. Now once in this position you could just bring her out, but this is also a great opportunity if you want to kind of grasp the shoulder. And then let me just show you what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be taking, here's her spine. I'm taking my fingers along the erector towards the top, which is closer to the ceiling. And I just kind of rock her back and forth. You know, right now she's does not have any lotion on. You know, if she had lotion you didn't want to have her glide, you could use the sheet. But also if you had had lotion, you wanted to incorporate some yummy gliding moves, you could go like this. And take the lotion and squeeze down the fingers. That feels really nice. And let me show you how to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm kind of starting at first with a little angle. You see how I'm using my lean? All too often people are so used to working with their upper bodies, they would do this. Instead of, lean into your work. Bringing it up. Elbow to elbow, pressing here. Take a look at my body mechanics, lifting up and then back. my body is really touching the table. Breath in, lifting up, and back. Scooping underneath the breast tissue, making sure this arm's a bit out of the way, anchoring at the hip, bringing in the twist. If you're working with somebody who's really flexible, you can increase the twist by bringing them from the elbow. Or you can use that as a transition point to come up here and then work the spine. I want to show you one other technique. This is something that actually one of the people who took my class taught me. So, interlock your fingers, put them behind your head. Great. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the soft part of your hand here, and you're going to have it support at their hip, at the ASIS. And then you're going to take your fingers here, and then let me show you what's going to be happening with my body. It's almost like I'm going into a kung fu position. So my leg that's closest to their feet stays closer to the table, and the leg that's closest to their head is going to come back while I pivot and then anchor down. Let me show you how that looks. That's how it looks without her, for the most part. Let me show you how it looks with her. Anchoring, stepping back, rotating, and dropping down. And then I bring my hand flat across the belly so it can transition up to the side. That allows me to change sides of the table. And look, then the hand's right where it needs to be. All I need to do is anchor. And there's not a lot of grip here. So breath in, exhale. Excellent. So those are a couple more spinal twists for you. Okay, so I want to show you one of my favorite techniques that I learned actually from a Tibetan man who lives in northern India, and I call it the stair step neck technique because it's almost like you're going up and down a set of stairs. Now, I know that most people who are watching this are probably professional massage therapists, and professional massage therapists tend to be focused on muscle most of the time. So before you actually learn this, I want to name that this is a technique that's really focused more on the joint and creating opening within the joint. So your fingers will not be actually focusing on the muscle, but they'll be focusing on the range of the vertebrae of your client. So basically what I'm going to be doing, in my case with my hands, I tend to use my fingertips. And the edge of my fingertips are going to be on the edge of the vertebrae. So like, let's pretend that this is a vertebrae, where this is the spinous processes and these are the sides. So I'm going to be taking the tip of my middle finger on each side of the vertebrae, and I'm going to be basically pressing him up and down, and then moving to the next vertebral vertebra, and pressing up and down, and up and down. So what I'm going to have you do is you're going to take, and it's really going to depend on the length of your own hands. You're going to want to have some curve in your hand, and then you're going to adjust the curve of your hand depending on which vertebra you're on. But as a whole, kind of the bump part of their head is going to rest kind of along the heel or wrist of your hand. For right now, we're going to do more of a broad shot, and then we'll do some close-ups afterwards so you can see. But I'm taking right at the bottom cervical vertebra. I've got my middle fingers, and my middle fingers are supported by my side fingers. And then what I'm going to do is my hands, my forearms, the bones of my forearms are being supported on the table. And then my elbows are going to come down so that my fingers can come up. And then I move to the next vertebra. And it's actually quite strong pressure. It's not invasive, but it's really testing the edge, so it really helps to open up her throat. You can see that. Now, the most common mistake with people, and I see that, they're trying to do it from their arm strength instead of the rock of their bodies. And not only is that not kind to you as a practitioner, it also doesn't feel so good. So I'm going to show you the not so good way to do it so you have a comparison point. All right? So a lot of people come in and they try to kind of do it from their arms. And can you see how that's not so stable? Doesn't feel so good either, does it? No, it doesn't. Okay. So I'm going to maybe do this 2 more times. One just correctly so you can just see the body rock after seeing the incorrect way. And also, sometimes you may find that one vertebra is a little bit more stuck than the other. And I will just linger a little bit, maybe shake a little bit. Also, you have to give yourself permission to bring your arms to be supported by your body and not flying out loose. That way the rock really gets direct. Right there, that's a nice one to hold. So for the final time, this is something you can do once or twice, but I'm going to, in the video, show you a 3rd time. I'm going to have Sibylla come in a little closer so you can get a better idea of where the head is falling on my hands. Okay, and also where the fingers go. Breath in and exhale. That's a nice place. Maybe I could even do a little shake. You know, and this work could be either prepped with or followed with detailed muscular neck work, but keep in mind this is more of a gentle joint technique. There. See, yes, you hear her purr. Don't be afraid to open it up. It's pretty strong, but it's a strength with gentleness. And then I often will like to end with just kind of gently bringing her chin more back to neutral, and then just begin with just a real subtle traction, almost like a little bit stronger than a craniosacral type of traction. That will actually prime for the next technique that I'm going to do. It is indeed a traction technique. Again, just like with spinal twists, this is not something you're going to want to do with somebody who's got fused cervical vertebra or bulging discs in their neck or herniations. And it's certainly not a technique for everybody. Some people do not care for traction, so you have to use this next technique certainly with discernment. But I call it the scarf technique because it was taught to me using a scarf. I think I've learned it in India and then also a few other places. But I like to use actually a king-size pillowcase because it's extra long and then it's easy to clean them, whereas some scarves aren't as easy to clean. And I'll normally fold it kind of into maybe thirds. And then just like threading a needle, thread underneath, and bring her through. Now there are a few things to be mindful with this technique. So for this technique I'm going to be standing. Push the chair out of the way. The first sequence, I just am going to warm up the neck a little bit. And I will hold it almost kind of like the way you'd hold a tricycle bar handles. Just kind of gently. I keep their head on the table, maybe just rock a little bit. You can also hold and then maybe just gently bring them to the side. And to the side. Now for the next sequence, which is going to be a deeper traction, you're going to, if they have earrings or gauging or anything like that, you're going to want to have them to remove it because there's going to be pressure on their ears, and if they've got metal or something, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And you also want to be sure, because you're going to be covering the ears, that to communicate with your client. And, you know, like for example, I'll say, I'm going to be covering your ears, you won't be able to hear me so well, so if you need me to stop, just raise a hand and I'll stop, okay? Because even if you talk, your voice is going to be muddled. Your voice is going to be muddled for them, so, okay. And you want to also make sure that that you don't just go like this with their ear and crush their cartilage. You want to make sure it's flat and comfortable. So I place it flat, like this. Come along their head. And it's almost wrapped in the same angle as if you were wrapping your own hair up in a towel. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll firmly grasp, but without over squeezing the actual head itself. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly begin to lean. And give traction. Isabella, will you come over and take a shot kind of from a therapist angle so they can see what my hands look like? Good. And you can maybe pull out so they can see how I come out of this traction. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to come out of this traction. The first one I'm going to have you just come out very slowly. And then slowly let them go. That's one option. But I'm also going to go in again and I'm going to show you another option while she rests in that. So after I lean, the other option is you maintain the traction, you slowly come up, and then in kind of a gentle fell swoop, you let them go. And what will be happening is if you've tractioned, you've created a gentle, subtle stop in the cerebral spinal fluid. And then when you release it like that, there's a really nice flush in the cerebral spinal fluid. I'll show you what I mean by that. Both are options. The second one I'm showing is going to take a little bit more practice to, become a more expert in it. But, okay, so got the nice grip. Slowly begin my lean. I can also give a little shake. What I actually start to do, it's almost like I make a connection between my heart and my arms, down through her head, connecting with her spine, and then I, almost with my mind's eye, begin to follow her down the spine and feel, where's there restrictions, where there's not restrictions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly change my body angle so that I can come out in one single moment, but I still keep the connection. You see my arms are engaging, so that when I'm ready to let her go. What does that feel like? Great. Flush. The flush, okay. Yeah. So that's the stair step technique and the scarf traction. I want to show you a wonderful hamstring technique that actually, I learned it in Thailand from one of the Thai masters, Master Pichet. He does this traditionally on the floor with people fully clothed. It's a great hamstring relief. It's not anything that you're going to want to do with people who've got high blood pressure or heart conditions, because in addition to helping soften the hamstring and moving the energy through the legs, it's also considered a blood flow technique, so just be mindful, not something for somebody, varicose veins, high blood pressure, or cardiac conditions, or pregnant for that matter. So this is actually something where you're going to be using your seated weight on the hamstring to release the hamstring. So please make sure that you've already had a conversation with your client, letting them know that you are going to be using body contact other than your hands, and make sure that they're okay with that. And what I'm going to do is, I like using either a chair, but my favorite thing is to use a two-step step stool, where the step stool handle can get out of the way. And I'm going to, there's a few positions I'm going to show you. One I call side saddle. Now, in the video, it is a bit of an optical illusion. It almost looks like I'm sitting on their butt, but I'm actually not. The way it's coming, actually, my sits bones are a couple inches below where the leg joins the buttocks. And I sit. Now, if I'm working with somebody who's shorter, I don't want to put pressure on the back of the knee, so I may just use one of my sit bones and only one part of my backside to hold. And even just staying stationary like this is really quite relaxing. Connecting with your client's breath. And I could stay like this, if this wasn't a video, quite some time. And also, if you wanted to just kind of palm the lower back and the calf in this position. So this is more, like I said, like either side saddle or lifted knee. I also like to do one where I take my sits bones and split the femur bone in half with it, like this. And from here, you can either just sit quietly. I often will do some palming to help relieve tension in the calf. And this is also a great position, to find a tighter spot on her, to do a little muscle energy techniques, where you anchor at their heel, and then you're going to ask the client to bring their heel towards their bum, and then release. And that really allows me to sit that much deeper in the hamstrings. Do that again, and release. And then sometimes I'll even, if you want to get the thigh too, because this is also opening up the front hip flexors and thigh, you can have them straighten their leg down into the table, straighten, and release. Yeah, feels nice. Now some clients may feel a pulse, and that's a normal aspect of the technique. If they're uncomfortable with it, by all means stop, but it's not necessarily something wrong. It's actually a part of the Thai massage tradition. I can actually feel her pulse. And then what I'll do is I'll just come down gracefully. A nice benefit of that, when the pulse builds, when you come up, you get a nice warm rush in the leg, really kind of rejuvenating the leg. And then you can just, if you'd like to, just do a little rocking to help integrate that work. And that is the seated hamstring technique from Thailand. So I'd love to show you some long wave style inspired strokes from my time at the Esalen Institute. And for those of you who don't know, Esalen Institute is an amazing human potential institute, healing arts place that's on the edge of a cliff on the Pacific Ocean in Big Sur, California. And constantly there's the sound of the ocean crashing on the shorelines. And they've been since the late 60s doing massage and bodywork there. And my truth is that influence of the crashing waves of the ocean influences the way they touch people. Similar way in Hawaii, Lomi Lomi also is characterized by a lot of long strokes. It's a wonderful way to either start a session if you want. I often use it as after doing a therapeutic session, kind of a nice, yummy way to end a session. Now, it is more, with the long strokes, more sensual in nature, so you're going to really have to keep in mind your client's modesty. This may not be appropriate for everybody, but one of the things that I do to progressively help someone get comfortable with this technique is, instead of undraping both sides immediately, I'll start with just undraping one side. And you know, it's characterized by like strokes that go from the tip of the toe all the way up to the shoulders and through the fingers. So because of that, you are going to need more lotion, oil, or cream. What I do is I actually will get my cream pretty generously applied on my hands, and then I will take another little dollop and put it on my elbow, so if I run out of cream, I can still stay in my flow and grab extra. Let me show you what I mean. So I connect with my breath, and I slowly apply. Right here, I'm losing a little bit of cream, so I'll pick up some more. And then bring all the way down to the tip. Now, so much of this technique is really somewhere, like for me as a practitioner, like doing a dance, or moving similarly to ways that you move in Tai Chi. My hands are just what delivers the movement or the pressure, but most of the movement comes from my body. For example, watch, you can come and keep your fingers towards their head the entire time. Scoop underneath, and then lead with your body in your squat. Reconnect with their leg, turn, now you can apply more pressure when you have your arms in front of you. So if you want to do deeper pressure, keep your working surface in front of you. If you want to do lighter pressure, you can also do lighter pressure by pulling back. Like this is a soothing stroke, but it doesn't have a lot of deep pressure. I'm also going to start to show you some forearm options. And since, maybe expose a little bit more so I can come in the back. This is also, it's a nice technique to blend in. For example, if you were doing more specific work that had a lot of pressure, that was intense, you could also slowly with the other hand incorporate some work that not only distracts them, but also soothes them. So you can do deeper work with, like, for example, your forearm here, while giving them some soothing strokes through here. Watch how I connect. Maybe I'll connect like this. So I'm also got some recorded sounds of the oceans of Big Sur that I'm going to bring up, increase the volume with, and let you imagine like the different curves on your receiver's body. Imagine it almost like rocks or boulders in the ocean that the waves swirl around. I'll turn up some of the music right now so you can hear a bit of the sounds that inspire this technique. Like the ocean, sometimes it's slow, long, slow, but then sometimes maybe it's a little more vigorous. Lingers in little circles around some of the stones and then flushes back out to the sea. Let your hands be like the water and maybe they split on one of the stones. Forward, rotating your body and then returning to the feet. Once you get a sense, if you get a sense after doing one side undraped and then the other side undraped, your receiver may now feel comfortable enough for you to drape both sides of the body. And that will allow you to do some really nice strokes on both sides of the body at the same time. Maybe some of them will, if your person's okay with the hair, you come up through here and then come back with lighter pressure down to the feet. Or if you want to have firmer pressure the entire time, press. And then when you come to the shoulders, you rotate your body. And then come down, back, into the feet. You can also take little detours. Do more specific work, which she needs. For the sake of the video, she'll have to book a different session. You know, a nice way that you can also say goodbye is to stroke from the head, stay connected with the arms and the torso. then join the legs. Slowly, slowly. Come to the feet. Now this technique can really, you can be really luxurious with your time, taking lots of time with this. But for the sake of this video, I want to also show you, you want to be mindful when you're doing the drape, that you keep track of what side of the drape is on top, so that you can cover them gracefully afterwards. But let's say you're working with somebody who's more modest. Just because they're more modest, if this complete double-side draping isn't an option, you can also, this also feels really great, you can still incorporate some of those holistic, yummy head-to-toe strokes. Somebody who is more modest, you could even do this to somebody who's fully clothed. Just because somebody's modest doesn't mean that they can't get that whole sense of that all the pieces come together, that these long strokes. So thank you for playing, learning, enjoying around the table, around the world, Tour 1.